Alright, so today I want to compare the differences in ball python pricing in different parts of the world. It's pretty amazing what the separation of continents and oceans can do to the ball python industry. And when you're actually looking at the differences in prices, one of the biggest hurdles that I ran into is you have to actually convert the different currencies into pretty much a universal currency. So I actually took all the different currencies and converted them into US dollars so we can get kind of a side-by-side comparison of the different genes and different combinations. And what I actually did is I looked at some of the most popular genes and just the single genes without any hats or other genes in the mix, so you can kind of get a direct comparison between the different countries as far as the prices. And then what I did is I looked at just the 2020 hatchlings, which is the current season for hatchlings, so you can kind of get an equivalent, the same genes and the same age of a snake. And it's pretty amazing the differences in the prices from one area of the world to another. So I'm going to jump over the internet and I want to compare these prices in ball pythons. It's pretty amazing comparing the prices of ball pythons from different areas all around the world. Alright, so I'm going to jump over here on morphmarket.com and I want to start with this snake right here. This is a blue-eyed leucistic ball python, and this is pretty much the most popular blue-eyed leucistic. I'd say it's probably one of the best ones with the combination of the lesser and the Mojave. You get a really super stark white ball python with blue eyes, and I'd say it's probably the best combination because you get one of the starkest whites and you get a normal eye size. A lot of times with certain blue-eyed leucistic complexes, you actually get bigger eyes, kind of like a bug-eyed ball python, and sometimes you'll get like a micro-eyed ball python with really small eyes. And this is kind of interesting. I've actually noticed the blue-eyed leucistics just recently in the last year or two have really increased in price over here in the United States, where I'm actually at over here in the US. And you'll probably be amazed at the price on this one. Essentially what I did is I went through all the ones that are available for sale, and to kind of even things out, I looked at the most expensive example of the gene or the combination over here on MorphMarket. And this is the most expensive one I can actually find for sale. This one's actually listed for $700, which is pretty amazing. They were significantly less about 5 years ago, and it seems like for whatever reason, these blue-eyed leucistics just keep increasing in price over here in the United States. And I actually wanted to compare this one to this over here. This is actually one over in Europe. So this is exactly the same snake, a lesser Mojave, and it's kind of interesting on some of these. The combination of the lesser and the Mojave is so stark white that it completely masks all the other genes in the combination. So this one is actually a pastel, probably because they used a super pastel in one of the parents, which makes everything a pastel, and it's also possible spider. So sometimes you can have a lot of hidden genes in your blue-eyed leucistics. And I actually was looking at the price on this one. So this one's listed as GB200. So this is, I actually had to look this up. I'm not really familiar with a lot of the currencies from around the world. So this is actually 200 British pound sterlings. Some people call this pounds or pound sterlings or British pounds. And if you actually convert it, I actually have a cheat sheet over here. I converted all these currencies. 200 British pound sterlings is $273.69. That is the most expensive blue-eyed leucistic with the lesser Mojave that I can actually find over here on the European version of MorphMarket, which is pretty much half price, less than half price, which you'd actually see here in the United States. And I brought up another one over here from South Africa, and this one might actually surprise you how cheap this one is. It's really a lot less expensive. So here's another one. This is the Mojave lesser blue-eyed leucistic, essentially the same snake. And if you look at the price on this one, this is actually R$2,500, and you're probably scratching your head. You're like, what in the world currency is that? And that is actually South African rands. And if you do the conversion on 2,500, that actually comes to $164.97, $165 for this snake over in South Africa, versus if you were to buy it over here in the United States, you could pay it as much as $700. for the same snake, which is pretty amazing. And it's kind of interesting. I was actually doing a live stream. If you watched my live stream marathon, I was doing like 3 12-hour days back to back, and I was getting super chats during the live stream. And sometimes I get these super chats where it was like thousands and thousands of some weird currency. I had one that was like 5,000, and it was in some obscure currency, and I actually had to do the conversion, and it came out to less than $1. It was kind of wild. You look at some of these numbers, you think, wow, that's a lot of money, and then you do the conversion, and sometimes it's like hardly anything at all, which is sometimes it's pretty surprising. So here's another one that's pretty interesting, and that is the bamboo. And you know, the bamboo is one of my favorites because I actually have Bobby around my neck at the beginning and the end of every video, and he is a 7-year-old bamboo ball python. And the bamboos, I'd say they're increasing in price too. It seems like a lot more over here in the United States. So I actually pulled up just a straight bamboo with no other genes, which was kind of hard to find. And I pulled up the most expensive one over here in the United States. And this one actually is for sale for $450. Pretty amazing. And I actually pulled up another one from Europe over here, pretty much the same exact thing, just a straight bamboo. And this one is actually listed for 225 euros, which is another currency. You have to actually convert euros to US dollars. And for the bamboo, 225 euros is $273.81. So that is almost half of the $450. Well, a little bit more than half for the bamboo. So it looks like, you know, the ball pythons are a lot less expensive over in Europe. And I actually found another one over here on the South African version of the website. This one's actually just a straight bamboo. It looks like this is a new seller. As a matter of fact, I was kind of hard pressed to find a bamboo, just a straight bamboo with no other genes in the mix. There wasn't a whole lot of them over here. This one's actually selling for 2,500 South African rands. And if you convert that to US dollars, that is $164.97 for a bamboo, which is pretty much the cheapest bamboo that I've ever seen. Pretty amazing. So here is the clown, and the clown is probably the king of combos when it comes to a recessive mutation. Pretty much one of the most popular recessives in all of ball pythons. And when I got into ball pythons, I'd say I think the clowns were selling for about $300, $350 or something like that for a hatchling clown. It really depends on the gender too. And I actually pulled this one up over here on Morph Market in the US, and this one is actually listed for $450, pretty much the high end is what you can expect for a 2020 hatchling for a clown female. The females are a little bit more expensive in some cases. And I actually pulled another one up over here on the European website. This is a pretty good looking clown. I really like the color and the contrast on this one, really the jumbled up pattern. And this is just a straight clown with no other genes in the mix. And over here on the European version of Morph Market, this is actually selling for 220 euros. So that converts to $267.72 versus 450. So it's pretty much half the price, pretty much across the board so far over in Europe compared to the United States, which is kind of crazy. And I actually pulled up another clown over here from South Africa, the South African version of Morph Market over here. And this is another really good looking clown, just a straight clown, the most expensive one I could find over here. And this one's actually listed for 4,000 South African rands, which is pretty amazing. If you actually do the conversion on 4,000, it's actually $263.95 US dollars, which is pretty close to the European cost. So it's pretty much $265 over here on South Africa, and then compare that to $267 in Europe and $450 in the United States. Quite a big difference between prices in different places. So here's the last one I wanted to show you is the pied. The pied is another recessive, I'd say probably the two most common genes in all of ball pythons that a lot of people are really looking for are the pieds and the clowns. Both of them can make some really amazing combinations, and since they're recessive, it's more of a long-term project where you can't produce a whole lot of snakes with new combinations all at once. You have to breed them to something else and then take the hets and then breed them back to a het or a visual. Kind of keeps the prices high on some of your recessive processes over the long haul. So if you actually look at this one over here on the United States version of Morph Market, this is the most expensive pied that I could find over here. And it's amazing how the prices have been increasing. This one's a female. It's actually listed for $600, which is pretty amazing for a 2020 hatchling at 192 grams. And compare that to this one I found over here on the European website. This is another pied, and the pieds can be a little bit tricky because sometimes you get high white pieds, sometimes you get low white pieds. And when I first started in ball pythons, it seemed like the most expensive ones were the high white ones with a lot of white, but it seems like that's kind of gone out of fashion, I'd say. I think most people are kind of looking for the 50-50 now, where you get, 50% white and 50% color. And it seems like even the most expensive ones are kind of 50-50 like this. So take a look at the price over here on the European version of Morph Market. This one's actually selling for 400. This is actually 400 British pounds sterling, and that converts to $547.38. So pretty close to the US price, $600 versus about $547. So that's pretty close. I actually pulled up one more over here, and this is on the South African website. Another really beautiful pied. This one is really amazing. It almost looks like it has yellow belly or something. It almost looks like a pumpkin pied. It's so yellow. And if you actually take a look at the price on this one, I really couldn't find any for sale over here. Most of them were on hold, so I pulled this one up. This one was actually from 2020. This is a hatchling for selling for 4,500 South African rands. And if you do the conversion on that, that's coming in at $296.94, which is significantly less, about half the price as it is over here in the United States. All right, so it is time for the question of the day. And Jason George asks, why do you put an X on your ball python eggs? And that is a very good question. So if you actually watch me in some of my egg collecting videos when I'm going through my collection during a certain part of the year when my females are laying eggs, what I'll actually do is I'll separate all my eggs, I'll remove them from the big stuck together clump of eggs, and then I'll candle them with a light. You can actually see the little embryo in there. It's a little round circle, and I'll put an X right on the embryo. And a lot of people, what they'll say is you'll actually have better luck if you incubate the eggs with the embryos facing straight up versus if you have them positioned in another position. And I actually found a scientific article, believe it or not, they actually had a study where they looked at a whole bunch of ball python eggs, and they put the embryos up on a whole bunch of eggs, and they put the embryos facing down on some other eggs, and they compared them side by side. And to my surprise, they said that the embryos that were facing up, they had a higher hatch rate as far as the number of eggs that hatched with the embryos facing straight up. And the other thing that I thought was interesting about that article, they said if you actually take the embryo and you face it down where the embryo's on the bottom of the egg during the incubation period, you'll actually have bigger hatchlings. The hatchlings will come out of the egg a little bit bigger, which I thought was pretty interesting. I don't think a lot of people have actually looked at some of the scientific studies done on hatching ball python eggs. So that is pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.